back to Star Trek United. I am one of the hosts of this show. Of course, with me is my first officer, Commander Xena, and our Klingon liaison.
Kapla! Nookne, homeboys!
My man. And then, of course, I have my ensign, and we have joining us from her own Star Trek group, First Lady of Fandom, Miss Liz. Ladies and gentlemen, I have finally been like blessed with some episodes that I'm like, you know what I mean? These two episodes made me go, ooh, Star Trek getting deep. Now we're into some stuff here. We got Worf on the bridge. There's a Klingon on the bridge of the Enterprise. I almost lost my mind when I first saw it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is just, I didn't think he was going to be one of my favorite characters because Lieutenant Yar to me seemed a little bit more capable, than Worf at the time. What's going on, Rob? Thank you for joining us. So, a matter of honor is what we're talking about today. Originally aired in February of ooh of '89. So, I graduated high school that June when the best movie in the world, Batman, came out. This episode really for me was a turning point. We're actually diving into some Klingon culture for the first time. We're really getting, they're not just they're the bad guys because they're Klingons. And I thought that was really interesting. They tell you about this exchange program because the Klingons now are friends with the Federation. Um, I was really impressed with this episode. What's going on, Taco Cat? Um, let's just get into it. I'll lead off with you, Commander, and then we'll go to our liaison of the Klingons, who's also a part of our ship as our guide, as we are in the Federation Klingon sector. So, Commander.
I haven't seen this episode in a while, and I know when I look up, one of the, I guess, really good episodes of Star Trek, I usually see this title up there and, think, okay, I don't really remember it, but, one of these days I'm going to watch it again. So, I saw this episode again, about 2 days ago, and I liked it. I love the interaction with the Klingons. When Riker was, eating the Klingon delicacy, I thought that was cute. I literally paused Paramount Plus and went in there with my husband and said, "This is cute. I really like what I see with this interaction." Talking to Worf in the hallway, and I kind of see the relationship a little bit between Riker and Worf kind of develop it a little bit more, with Worf giving Riker a couple of pointers, getting on the Klingon ship, the hey, look, if the captain, does something stupid or whatever, you need to kill him, you're in charge, and this is how it just works, and, in the bird of prey. I fairly enjoyed this episode. And compared to the recent episodes that we watched and commented on this show, I just liked it. It was, it had a little, friendship a little bit in there. It had a little like rough. They're gonna, kill each other and start fighting, and Riker saying, "Hey, look, let's see what they say," and Leon's like, "No." It was good. I fairly enjoy it, and I can see why a lot of people say this is one of their favorite episodes.
Nice, 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 nice. All right, sir. I've been waiting for this for a while. To have someone more immersed than myself into the Klingon experience as we had to excommunicate someone. Uh, give it to us. What'd you think?
So this episode was wonderful in the sense that it did give you a much better whole view of what it means to be Klingon, something that you really have never seen before. As pointed out before, a lot of times you see them as the bad guy in the movies in the original series. You never really got to see anything of their culture to speak of. Um, but here, one of the best examples is when Riker comments, "I've never seen a Klingon laugh before," and they said, "Of course we laugh. You know, we're just like you. I have a mother, I have a father. I look like them. They look like me." Um, you really get to see a sense of their culture, that they are a full, rich people, and that it is also just as similar to being human. It's also very different. Their their sense of honor, their sense of duty, um, the fact that you really start to get a grasp of what they mean when they say that, you know, it is our honor to die in battle, and to not die in battle is a meaningless life. It's a wasted life. And I loved every aspect of it, all the way to the end, where Picard looks at Riker and says, "Maybe you need to learn how to duck." And Riker responded, "When not to duck would be more appropriate." And that's right. I'm not going to. He took command of that ship. He's not just going to give it back to the captain, because that would not just dishonor him; it would dishonor the captain. No, the captain's going to take it from me if he wants it back. And the fact that Riker really grasped that so quickly, and they portrayed those things, the writers knew to put all of that in, was incredible. Um, you long before Next Generation brought in the Klingons, FASA was a game company, still a game company, I believe, um, that did a Star Trek role playing game, and they came up with the very first real inclusion of Klingons as a people and their culture. And the world they created was mostly disregarded by Paramount when Next Generation came along. Paramount said, "We're going to come up with our own. Thank you very much." Um, but it the world that FASA created and the culture FASA created really just continued on with Paramount. They did continue that same mentality of what it means to be Klingon, what it means to have honor and duty above all else. Um, and so uh, I really love this episode. I watched it just again a few weeks ago, and really enjoyed it, and enjoyed every piece of it. I liked the that was when you first got to see Gawk, and as a comedic note, when we did SciCon the first year in '88, I think it was, and we did our display. Our captain back then, his name was Captain Cragtow. Um, he had us make a wooden bowl and put all the gummy worms in it, and then he took a motor and drilled it into the bottom of the bowl with pieces of coat hanger on each side bent up, that served as a stirrer. So battery powered. So when we put our bowl of gach on the table, it squirmed. And you cannot imagine. It were gummy worms, but it still was such a great reaction from everybody that walked by. As you walked in, you just, "Would you like gach?" And they went, "Oh, it's a gummy worm." And then they saw them moving, and they went, "Oh God, what is that?" And of course, you have to eat them in front of them. And that was the beginning. And I won't go into what one of our Klingons, Brinley, did, because he actually got edible worms for one of our festivals. and only a few dared to partake of the actual gawk. But it was a great episode. I thought it was terrific.
Well, look, I'm gonna pause right here just to say this: that one time I really want to get with you and do a real hardcore Klingon episode and just talk culture, talk everything else because we have a Klingon page. I just don't have anybody really to run it. We had some hiccups along the way,
Hmm.
but I would love to do that, put that on there, get the excitement going again. But having you on the victory is great itself. All right, my ensign, my Klingon ensign. Your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Gentlemen, ladies, it was a great episode. I think that what inspired me most was that the episode had a lot to do with the Klingons. And as y'all know, I'm new to this and kind of getting the awareness of it. So I kind of felt like Riker, how he was trying to prepare himself for that time period or that um, mission that he was on, and by Worf kind of giving him the insights, the do's and the don'ts, and everything, and then of course Riker just being himself, being that first officer. He kind of had to combine the two worlds together to make them work. I think one of the funniest parts of that show was when they were in the dining hall and they were sharing a feast, and then all of a sudden the two female Klingons were talking, and he's like, "Do I have to go with them both?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, that was like a Captain Kirk moment. It felt like a little bit there, and
Yeah, because they had
yeah,
asked him. The female had asked him, how would he
yeah,
endure? And the Klingons were saying, and they were telling him, he's like, "What do you mean, both?" And that's when they, breaking the
yeah,
ice, so to speak. Yeah, yeah,
and and then the fact, like y'all said, that he was preparing by eating certain foods, and it seemed like it wasn't bothering. And kind of touching base on what Mike said. In one of another clubs I was in, we had a Star Trek event, and instead of actually food, please forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, but we had somebody to bring in I guess the alcohol, or was it blood wine or something
Blood wine.
from?
Blood wine.
Okay, and it was in a fancy bottle, or a kind of like a a rustic, Klingon looking type bottle, but it was like it wasn't alcohol, but yet it was presented that way, and that was amazing. But just going back to the episode itself, it was intriguing, and just to touch on the non part of it, the cadet that was actually seemed like to me, I thought he was kind of starting trouble, like he was, trying to get under Worf's skin, and try to push. Hey, look at me! I can do this. And then every time you turn around, you saw him kind of sniffing into his thing. I'm like, well, why? That was I guess a modern version of a vape back in those days. But great episode, guys, and it's been one of my favorites up until this point.
awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, Miss Liz, you are part of your own Star Trek group, so please tell us a little bit about that, and then
Well, you know about Starfleet Atlantic. We've been around 45 years. Uh, we don't have any Klingons per se in the group. We're all human or Vulcan, one or the other. Uh, but and I'm well versed of Psychon, so you know that. And I remember this episode. It's been years since I've seen it, but I remember it. And I think Riker did a pretty good job of holding his own. and what he said to Picard about learning when not to duck was a very good point. And the fact that he even I think he surprised some of them when he ate the Klingon food and enjoyed it. But yeah, that it was a very good episode. It was very educational. Uh, so I enjoyed it. I mean, you really got to learn a lot about what it was like to be on a Klingon ship, vice a human ship, and the stuff that poor Wolf has to put up with us.
Well, I'm I'm definitely one of those people that again, this episode made me take note. It stood out to me, and I was like, oh, okay. So this is where my Klingon journey began. I was back then. I was with, believe it or not, a ship called the USS Ma'at. It was part of Starfleet International, and it was a science vessel. So you had a Klingon on the science vessel, and I was chief engineer, and it didn't go well. Starfleet International at the time was, they had their issues. You couldn't do certain things. But I wanted, after seeing this episode, and, I was really intrigued by the Klingons. And that started my love for the Klingons, this episode. So I was really excited. I had to get Mike on here, and I was like, "Look, we I need you for this. This is a great episode. This was, the starting point." So we have Rob mentioning the benzite.
Yeah.
Eh,
I like the fact that Mike's around. He actually remembers Psychon.
Oh,
I
I mean,
do.
Miss Liz,
I
I
do.
remember it was one of my first cons.
You know how many Psychons I did. I did every single Psychon except for the first two, and then I didn't get to do the last one, and I missed one in the middle because I was out of country. It's a little hard to go to Psychon when you're in Sicily.
Well, the strange things is that we three were there at most of these conventions, and then years later, the connection hit because Michael was coming into the store, and every now and then he would say something, and I'd be like, I remember this guy, I know this guy, da 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 da. And then boom, one day we just started talking, and like an hour and a half went by, and then of course Miss Liz, I was like, I'm going to your house every springtime when you have your little yard sale and everything else, and you're like, yeah, I did that, and I was like, that's you. And then of course, for me, the Denise Crosby panty thing was the was
That
the
is a
like,
great memory. Denise Crosby's panties is a great memory.
yeah, and that's when I remember seeing you walking around and doing your little thing. So bringing us all back full circle. Hopefully, we can reignite that
And when
love
we
for
met
Star
her
Trek.
again in shore leave years later, she actually remembered that and everything. And she said, "Yeah, that was pretty incredible too."
You know what's funny? When I met her, I don't think I have it here. When I re-met her, I wanted to tell her that hey, I remember when you did that. But this lady, she was just a sweetheart when she signed off on my signature, and I framed it. She goes, you're such a sweet young man." Da 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 da. She signs this thing, and I could barely say anything because she was actually talking to me like, you know what I mean, like a neighbor or something. And of course, John Delancey was kind of like, yeah, yeah, here you go.
John
Like, yeah.
Delancey's one of the nicest people in the world.
No, I beg to differ, Miss Liz, and I'm sorry to tell you this, but he was a real dick.
Well, I've known it. Well, he must have been that way to you, but he's always been really sweet and
Okay,
nice to
not
me.
it wasn't that way to me. He was a dick. Just like you said, Dak was a dick to you. Dak was great with me. I got him to sign stuff, and he was great. So I've had two Star Trek fans Galaxy Quest me, and one was a half Klingon, and to me, she can go kick rocks, go out an airlock, do whatever. I can't stand her ass for that shit. As a fan, you should be beholding to your fans, especially when they pay money to get your autograph and then tell you how great you are and how much you meant to them. I don't care if you're having a bad day. Suck it up. Because in retail, when I have a bad day, I can't sit there and take it out on the next customer that comes along. And now I'm paying you to sign something for me? Come on, Ms. Liz.
Yeah.
Well, I never had to pay anything from John. He always did it for me.
Well, then I guess that would be a good thing for you, but I had to pay and he was a dick. So,
And he was always really sweet to me, and he was always glad to see me. And we would take pictures. I got pictures to prove it together. He always wanted to know how I was doing and all that kind of stuff.
I'm just saying, Ms. Liz. I'm just saying.
I know.
We all
There
get an
are
experience
people
from
of-
somebody.
Yeah,
You
true.
know what I mean?
There are actors that I have met in the past that they can take a long walk off a short pier, if you know.
There you go. But again, this episode was, like I said, it sparked so much. And then of course seeing Riker, let's see if we can pull this up, because there's that picture. When he orders the surrender.
Yes.
He's got that swagger to him there, right? He's got that swag to him. He's like ready, look. Um I have to be honest. I love their dynamic, though. I love the Picard Riker dynamic. I was a little hurt in season 3 in Picard when he made Picard get off the bridge. I was like, come on, man, what are you you know what I mean? But I get it. You're in command.
Yeah.
You have to have that presence. You're in command. I get it. But again, this for me was a great episode, a blossoming for me into Klingon culture. I started grabbing anything and everything I can that was Klingon, and I hadn't stopped.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I hadn't stopped. To this day, I still have like the Alien Planetary book on the Klingon homeworld. We have the Proud Warriors of Kronos Facebook page. I've got like 3 bat lifts. I had a mech lift. I got rid of it.
And he looks
And
pretty
we-
good dressed up as a Klingon too.
Oh no. That was the most hottest, and I don't know I don't know how you do it. All that hair. The hair was everywhere, and the beads of sweat were, stinging the eyes and the forehead. But I will say this. When you put all that on, you feel badass.
Yeah.
Feel like,
You get into character, and then
Oh, yes.
and there are tricks. I think you and I talked about it once. There are things you can do that help mitigate the sweat, but yeah, if you want to test to prove if you're Klingon, wear that uniform all day at a convention. Wear that uniform all day at shore leave or at Dragon Con, Labor Day weekend.
Oh God, yes. You
Oh,
wear
God,
that stuff
no.
at Dragon. I don't know how they guys do it, Dragon.
Dragon Con?
Uh,
Oh God, no.
I wore my uniform all day Saturday at Dragon Con.
I always
Yes,
felt,
sir.
I always felt sorry for the guys in the stormtrooper outfits and the Klingons. You know,
All I know is this is something that even when I started this chapter beforehand, uh, I've never really gone full cosplay in anything, and for the first time at Convivial, I was in it, and I loved it. I loved that whole thing up until and then and I'm doing this, and and I actually afterwards I have a lot more respect for you ladies with wigs and long
Mhm.
hair, you guys with this long hair, because I'm telling you now, I was like, oh, hell no, I don't want to do this no more. But I say that in my bedroom, there it is on my hanger behind my door in full display. So I see it every morning. I see it every morning, and I always look at it kind of like that Iron Man moment where Roddy goes, "Next time," you know what I mean? I want to do it again, but I
got a
digress.
great
Let's get
picture
to
of
this
you
next
in that
episode.
outfit.
Oh, Miss Liz, it was hot.
I know, but at least I've got proof that you did it.
Let's see. We have now a measure of a man, and I am not a huge Data fan. I don't know about you guys, but Data was never you know what I mean? I get it, the whole Pinocchio thing, wanting to be human, but for me, they kind of wore it into the ground. Him and Wesley. Every time you turn around, it was Mr. Data this, or Data can save the show, or Data can save the Enterprise, and I was kind of like Data, Data, Data. But this episode, I mean, we're coming out of season 1, and now uh, I'm actually kind of questioning. You know, we get one of the greatest speeches from Picard too, but Riker has an equally great speech about how a man created him, and now a man will turn it off. Boop, and Data goes down,
Mhm.
and he whispers, "I'm sorry, my friend." you know, Speechless. Again, great storytelling. When you have this much story, even from a character that you're not really caring for, now I care about this character. And what I'm leading to say is, I don't know any of the names from, except for Michael Burnham, only because I can't stand the character. I don't know any of the names from Starfleet Academy, never bothered to learn them because I didn't care about any of the characters. But Next Generation, you show me a character, except for that guy, don't know that guy. I know him. Look at that. That's where he turned him off. I mean, this was such a great episode. This is storytelling. All right, Miss Liz, we're gonna start with you and work our way back. What'd you think of it?
Uh, it was a great episode. It really tested our humanity, how we treat people. Uh, I think Riker and everybody who was defending Data had a good point. Uh, and it was. It doesn't remind me of a couple of episodes, like I think it was Outer Limits or Twilight Zone or something, where the guy was an android and they put him on trial because they accused him of, killing somebody and he didn't. And it was just incredible. It was a Leonard Nimoy thing. But I really, I like Data and I like Riker, and you learned very quickly how to dislike that woman who was trying to prosecute Data and turn him off. You just didn't like her at all. She had no feelings whatsoever. Uh, but I'm so happy that in the end it all worked out. But I was just kind of going, uh, how would you like it if somebody did that to your parents? You know, that kind of thing.
No, valid, valid.
Mhm.
All right, Mr. Tucson.
Well, guys, I think this was a really good episode. I like Data. Me and Big L had an opportunity to meet Brett Spiner back at GalaxyCon, and we had an opportunity to talk to him or see him at his panel. For a man that seems to be super nice, very respectful and courtesy, I think he would probably be one hell of a evil character because uh, the way he talks about it. Anyways, back to the show. I I like the fact that Data was at first kind of interested and wanting to help proceed with this type of situation, but then you could tell where the scientist couldn't really answer all the questions. So to me, he was becoming a threat. He didn't seem like he had any good intention at all. But yet also the dynamic between some type of past situation between Picard and I guess an ex fling, which, if I'm not mistaken, guys, she kind of reminds me. I think she played a Klingon in one of the movies, didn't she not?
Did
And maybe
she?
she did. I don't know. She just from she reminds me of someone that played a Klingon in like one of the movies or something. But maybe it's something that we can research. Kind of like the other episode where the old man was the head of the penitentiary in undiscovered country. But I
Mhm.
I think the episode had like Miss Liz said, about our humanity and everything, and I think that both Riker and Picard had to play good versus evil to try to save their friend. And you saw that at the end. Data was very appreciative and everything. But yet, you know, the judge turned around and told Picard, "You're buying dinner." So that kind of dynamic there was also good. So you got a little bit of a different stories from each different person, but unfortunately, Data's existence was on the line there. So I like the episode a lot.
Okay, so you're gonna love Fistful of Datas when that comes around. Just saying. Just saying. When you see that episode, you'll get your evil data. All right,
Mhm.
sir. You're up.
Well, since Joe mentioned Rura Pente, um, I will quote: "Work well, and you will be treated well. Work badly, and you will die." Um, yeah, it was a very good. It was obviously a Data episode, and it was very good in doing what Roddenberry wanted to do always, which was discuss some social issues in the context of sci-fi. Um, and they touched on it. Okay, if you're curtailing the rights of this one android and you intend to make more, well, how many more? Another, a dozen, 100, 1,000? Are you not discussing creating a race? And are we not going to be judged by how we treat that race? And um, are you going to curtail the freedom of this race? And what does that say about the Federation? And it was a great way to bring that social aspect into the sci-fi world, but put it out on the spotlight. This is we're talking about the freedom of what could conceivably be an entire race. Um, and I liked how at the end Riker and Data in the conference room, and Data said there's a celebratory uh, party going on. Aren't you coming? And he said, no, Data. And he said, why? He goes, I almost won, Data. I almost cost you your freedom. And Data pointed out something. What you did injured you, but saved me. And I won't forget that, because that's what heroism is: something that saves you but injures me. That's or the opposite, I would say. That's heroism. And Data was able to recognize that. And I thought that was a great end to that episode. It touched on all the pieces of Data. What does it mean to be sentient? And like you said, okay, we've already met two criteria. What if he meets the third? Self-awareness. And I think they established that by the end of the series. Data was in fact very sentient, but uh, it was a great way to introduce all that, including the lovely part what we saw before, that special relationship Data had with Tasha. You know, okay, the android's got game. I can't help you. I got nothing to say. Thank you. I mean, he landed
He's
Tasha.
made very good points. All very good points.
So, but I think it was a very good episode in a lot of ways, and I think that they definitely showed the Federation being up against a crisis, a potential crisis of what are your social policies going to be, and the Federation ended up on the correct side. So,
All right. Number one, give me what you got.
I actually agree with pretty much all of y'all too. I did love the scene, when, Data had to say his relationship with Tasha. I mean, looking at Riker's facial expression was like, really? So that was a great scene. The lawyer lady, JAG officer, I guess you can say. Um, I know Miss Liz kind of said she didn't really care for her too much. I thought she was just kind of doing her job. I didn't really mind her too much more than the scientist guy. He's the one that really got under my skin. You know, um, Kind of remind me a little bit of Pulaski. Everybody knows I didn't like her. Hey, he's not real. I'm going to open up his brain and I'm going to look into it. So I think his character more angered me than the lawyer lady. Especially since, by the end of the episode, she was like, yeah, he did, 3 points, self awareness, intelligence, conscious. So I didn't really mind her too much. Um, Also, I agreed with Calibus. I've never really been a big fan of Data. Maybe when the series first premiered, I might have liked him a little bit more then than what I would say watching the movies and watching the series again. I kind of feel like it kind of surrounded Data a little bit more than I want to see. I love the idea where the next gen characters, you had episodes kind of with all of the main characters plus kind of the side characters, where I feel like they got to a point with Data, especially with the next gen movies, it was just all about Data. And I kind of, over time, kind of grew to really dislike his character. Um, Overall, I thought it was a really good episode. You know, Definitely can see why people talk about how good it was. Again, I I probably have seen the episode again, and it's kind of funny how I'm rewatching some of these episodes where I might not necessarily remember everything what happened, but then as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. Especially when the guest star pops in, and I was like, oh yeah, blah 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 blah. I saw this episode today, and just kind of smiled a little bit, and I was like, okay, this is what I really enjoy about Trek, the relationship with the characters. They're not really pushing what the episode is about, but as you watching it, you start thinking about it. Oh yeah, they're saying that he's a machine, he's not real, and he's just another species, kind of in my mind. I think is one of the reasons why I don't like Pulaski, for her being a medical doctor in Starfleet. Her negativity that she feels towards Data, I just couldn't stand. But overall, very good episode. And I will rewatch it again easily.
Definitely. These two episodes sparked something for me because now, you can actually see Picard really kind of, these are my crew, these are my people. I am going to protect my people. And that whole speech about, reaching sentience, he met that criteria. What happens when you reach another one? Do you? Do you know? Do you know? Then he looked at the judge. Do you know? And I was like, okay, damn, okay, okay, I got you, I got you. So obviously, especially with the Klingon episode, but I think, and I could be wrong, it really takes off with season 4. I just, and I hate to say that because, after the passing of Gene Roddenberry, they were kind of more freer to do things that, Gene was kind of like opposed to do. And they did what they did. It was said that Rick Berman had the tie wrapped around the bust of Gene's face. So, if you got to oh. Oh, yeah. Yeah. we, we were intimate. So, again, I hate to say it. It's just, the writing. You know what I mean? You can say that we, of course, as we went along, the writing got better from cowboy movies to what we have now, right? And now, all of a sudden, I'll just be honest with you, 2000s and stuff, it just slowly starts just deteriorating into just, me, 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 me. I need to go to prom. I need to do this. I need to show you that this is my sexuality, and the world hated me for being the way I am. Not in Star Trek, because nobody cares anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're all past that. You can't take a race that had their uniforms when Kirk was fighting them, didn't change in Next Generation, and now you think that their whole family dynamic is going to change. It just doesn't work. We're putting too much of our own politics and ideals in something that just does not work, that doesn't belong there. It just doesn't. That's a whole different species. They don't act like us. They don't do the same things that we do. Obviously not. You know what I mean? And I think they missed the point. I think the writing missed the point. I think the younger people who want to be in Star Trek themselves and portray other characters, and I'm the new Dax. No, you're not. I'm not. I'm not. I'm sorry. There's a line that Spock and Kirk have together, And Spock's like, they're dying. Let them die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let them die. That's got to go. You're going to have to really course correct to get the fans back in there. Because, believe it or not, for those of you that are streaming all this stuff, we have it on VHS, we have it on our hard drives, we have it on DVD, we have it on Blu ray, and we have it on streaming. And we're not streaming any of this new stuff. As much as you guys want to say that, oh, it's doing no, we got these petitions, it's over. They've already taken down the sets. It's over. It's done. And I will watch my hard media files. I'll watch my DVDs before I go back and do anything else. With that being said, we have the next two episodes. Ms. Liz, you're more than welcome to join us to talk Trek. To my Klingon ambassador and liaison, anytime that you want to come on here, whether it's a Klingon episode or not, please feel free. I will send you the link. If you don't make it, we totally understand. You rushed in here to get to here today, so I greatly appreciate that. And again, I want to do a Klingon episode. I really do, because we've had the Chancellor on this show at least 4 times, maybe 5. JG, I love hearing his Mark Twain stories, and it's just something about letting that man. You don't. All you got to do is you just say 1 or 2 words, and you just let him go.
Oh yeah, just let
He's
him
the
go.
chancellor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the chancellor. I just Miss Liz. We just let the chancellor go. Yes, we let him go. He inducted my Klingon house into his house. So, we're part of a great house and a lesser house. House Rade is part of, yeah, he is always fun. You know,
He is so much fun to have around, and he just loves to talk.
Yeah, if
does.
you really want to see him have a good time, put him and Bob Riley together. Oh dear God,
Oh, yes.
you
Well,
won't get a word
Oh,
in
yeah.
edgewise.
look, we were trying to do that before some things fell apart. And then I see him doing all this other stuff. So, but one day I would love to try to do that. I would love to get them both on. I've got
Yes.
both of their autographs on some stuff. But
Go to the
every
bar
time
with
I
him.
get
It's
them
lots of
on,
fun.
that's like I hear the call of the warrior, and then I'm like, oh my god, I can't afford to go back to this lifestyle again. And next thing I know, I've got bat lifts everywhere, and you know what I mean.
Hmm.
I'm quoting Klingon lines, and the family's looking at me like he's doing it again. So,
Well,
Wait till you
but
start.
have you?
Wait till you start speaking that Klingon language. I'll get you copies of. I have all of them. Conversational Klingon, the whole nine. Mark Ochran's book. I've got. Well, we're moving, so in a few weeks. But once it's all unpacked, I'll have all that out again. And
dude, we used to. I used to listen
Perfect.
to it before I went to bed. The Klingon way and all that other stuff, and Battle Klingon, and then we had the Klingon Pop Warrior on here, and she sings in Klingon.
hmm.
And for a whole year, on my way to work, on my way home, I listened to her belt out songs in Klingon, and it's just, you know, it's a wonderful time to be a nerd now because everybody is basically stealing our little edge of everything, and now you can walk around here freely with any type of pop culture shirt on, and it's okay. But we were doing it when it wasn't cool. You know what I
Should,
mean? You
yep,
can't. We were doing it when it wasn't cool.
we had the original Klingon commander, the aforementioned Captain Cragtow. He had a pin made. For those of you back in the Cyclone day, remember how we used to always have the pins? Yeah, right. He had a pin made that said, "I was Klingon before Klingon was cool." I think I might still have that pin somewhere in here. Yeah.
And I was a
So
geek before it was cool.
we will be back in 2 weeks with our next two episodes. please join us. I want to thank everyone. I've already put it out in Convivial's website because Convivial gave us our start. My first full Klingon cosplay, whether it was complete or not, was at Convivial. They always have a place in our heart. I want to thank them for allowing us to put our stuff over there. Um, and of course, I want to thank my Klingon liaison, my crew, and of course, the First Lady of Fandom, Miss Liz. So, guys, we will see you in 2 weeks. I want to thank you very much. And I cannot forget about the ever present non cosplaying Marky Mark. Thank you, Mark.